Hello, welcome back.
I'm Shenelle.
And I'm Gennelle, and this is Shenelle and Gennelle, where book talk meets culture.
Where our mission is to share accessible, culturally relevant, and engaging books that would engage struggling or reluctant readers.
Yes, awesome. So today, our first book that we're going to do is 8 Days, A Story of Haiti.
Yes. So this is a very heartfelt, warm book that I felt like was really relevant to the time and season that we're in. So it's about a little boy who is trapped in a collapsed building or his house in Haiti after the earthquake in 2010. And when I came across this book, the reason why I felt it was very necessary to bring back up again was because Haiti just had a second earthquake. Mm-hmm. And what really resonated with me is like what's going on right now in the media with
the response of
Haitians and refugees coming to the U.S. and how we're responding. But overall, like to summarize the book, this book speaks of the little boy's story as he's trapped, what strategy he uses to survive. So he's trapped in the rebel for 8 days.
Yes. The author does a wonderful job of using the imagination of the child while he's trapped to show you the beauty of Haiti. Mm-hmm. Like he shows you everything that makes Haiti normal, which it is. It normalizes that narrative of like what the Haitian experience looks like. So I think that's the beauty that you could take away from this book.
So you experience his life as a child, what he would normally do with his friends, how he went out and played, how he spent time with his family, which really lets kids learn that, other kids in the world live and play and enjoy their families just as much as they do. Mm-hmm. So he actually uses his imagination, and every day he accounts something that he imagines in his mind that's happening while he's waiting to be rescued.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting book concept. Overall, the book it's very sweet. There is some essence of loss in the book, which I think caretakers should know about. Like there is someone that's going to be lost, and there's a level of sadness. And I think people might not.
Yeah, people feel wary about that, but I feel like it's like that's part of life. Loss is part of life, and it does give you an opportunity to develop some sort of empathy and understand beyond the narrative of this narrative that people have, this poor country and this happened. You realize that they are people too.
Yeah.
Like they have friends and families and they care too, and like their family love each other too. And it's just like it gives it that normalcy. I feel like there's a narrative that is put on on the Haitian people, but I feel through this book it shows you the strength and the resilience of through this little boy. You see his strength, you see his resilience, which almost represents the strength and resilience of the Haitian people altogether.
Exactly.
And all the tragedies they experiences, from earthquakes to hurricanes, it just shows you the resilience, and the author does such a beautiful job in showing you that resilience through the book.
Yes, and I think too, as educators, as parents out there, we have a responsibility to raise compassionate kids. And what we're seeing in the media right now doesn't demonstrate that love and compassion. Right? So I feel like this gives kids to understand, like, hey, people do go through this. And look, he had a life before an earthquake. Viewing someone from a single narrative of poverty and poor and destruction is not really what we want to tell kids this is how they live. They had regular lives just like you, like me. They played, they have friends. So I feel like this book helps kids understand that. And the idea of loss and grief just helps us relate and connect as people. Like just how a lot of young children have lost loved ones during COVID. It's a different type of loss, but it is still loss nevertheless. So I feel like you're able to relate in that way.
Yeah, it separates the divide that I see in the country where it's us versus them, right? You see citizens versus immigrants, and you take away that aspect of the being, they're people, we are all people, and we all experience joy and sadness together, and this is like you said, an awesome opportunity for us to tune in to how we should really have these conversations with kids and have them develop that sense of empathy for others.
Because discrimination doesn't start when you're adult. It's rooted in childhood. So if we start expressing and showing kids that love and compassion from early, it's something that they're going to grow and develop with throughout life. So
let's go straight into the acing of this book.
Yes.
So is it ace? Is it accessible to struggling or reluctant readers? Is it culturally relevant? Meaning that does it represent the culture that it is trying to explain? And
is it engaging? am I going to enjoy reading this book? So first for Ace, this book is pretty much accessible. It's basically a bunch of like, I would say, early reader sight words, very low grade. It's really for readers. They would say 4 to 8 years old.
Yeah. Basically second grade reading.
Yeah.
I do think it may be a challenge for some kids who have a difficulty with theory of mind. So theory of mind is the ability to understand, to see the perspective of both people. And not in a way like to understand my perspective and your perspective, but to understand throughout the book that the boy is still in the rubble, even though he's imagining what he was doing every day. The child has to hold in mind that this is not actually happening, but the child is imagining.
Yeah.
And I think that may be a little challenge for some students, especially if they're not keen on that aspect. But any challenge is an opportunity to teach a child something new.
Yes.
So even though it is a challenge, it's an opportunity to teach and engage in theory of mind, which a lot of children struggle with.
Yeah, a lot of children that have, that have autism,
yeah.
And some kids that have some language disabilities, holding in mind some key phrases that are said in the book, so it's not as explicitly explained, like holding those words in mind and identifying those words, holding it in mind to remember, like, hey, this is not really happening to the boy. It's all in his imagination. These are things that he may have experienced in the past, but is currently still in the state of waiting to be rescued.
Yeah.
So
so that's the only thing I think accessibility would need. For some students, may need some support.
Cultural relevance. Now, I like the book because culturally, I think they stay, it's written in English. In Haiti, they speak Haitian Creole. There's a few Haitian Creole words in there, but you can definitely pick up what it means through context clues.
Yeah.
So that might be something that you might culturally be able to expand on. I think pairing this book with current events is really good to expand what's going on, because this out of context may just be like, okay, a boy
having fun with friends. And I think that's what I like about it culturally, that all kids can relate to playing with their friends, right? So outside of it, it doesn't seem like, oh, this is a book about Haiti, because yes, there is the aspects where he visits things that are specific to Haiti, but then there's also aspects that are just relevant altogether, and it's in the essence that we can all identify with playing with a friend, playing soccer, flying a kite, things like that. And I think, well, that's going into the relatability, right? Is it relatable?
Is it engaging?
Yeah.
So when it comes to engaging, I think the book keeps you on like, well, you know that the boy is going to be rescued, but you don't know what's going to happen to other characters along the way. So I think it keeps you engaged. The colors and the illustration in this book is so bright and vibrant, even though they're talking about a very heavy topic. And I think that was very wise of the illustrator to keep the book uplifting, even though you know that there's going to be loss in the book, that the colors really draw you in. Like they're bright, they're bold, they're vibrant, even though you know deep down that this boy's in a very unsafe situation. Yeah.
But I also think the way the story was written keeps you engaged, because he's showing you life as a Haitian boy in Haiti, and it being just like him having fun with his friends. So it's not like you're sitting down there reading a book about loss or you're reading about his everyday life. So I feel like that's what makes it engaging too. Like, hey, what's he gonna do the next day and the next day? So it keeps you going and turning and turning and turning.
And that's something that I did throughout therapy. When I was introducing this book, I stopped and said, what did he do on the first day? Just to have the kids recall events and recall details, and then find those keywords that made us know that something else was happening in the story. So that was good.
And the kids could relate, because they've done things like that before.
But speaking about Haiti, if you haven't noticed, we have on our I'm a C2C neighbor, are you? Now, we are part of Community to Community, and if you have been following us for any time, you know we have mentioned them before. So I just want to share with you what Community to Community is. Community to Community is a nonprofit dedicated to creating self-sufficient communities by working with the community in Haiti. Their mission is to mobilize resources to support the transformation of developing international communities into healthy, self-sufficient communities. So C2C is not a relief organization. They are a service and development organization that responds to the needs of their partner communities.
Yeah.
And basically, they're our neighbors. And that's the whole essence about what this book is about. So why we wanted to really highlight and talk about Haiti is that we've been working with this community for, I would say, the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And what they do is they are not the immediate relief, like, oh, there's a hurricane or earthquake, and they're the first ones on the ground, but they're the ones that stay on the ground and help develop and reestablish the community.
Yes.
Like, we are our brother's keeper. And I think we have to remember that, right? That we sometimes I think in society, we get so nationalistic. I'm American, I'm Haitian, I'm this and I'm that. And we realize at the end of the day, we're all human.
Right.
Right? So I'm my brother's keeper. And if my brother needs support, if my brother and my sister need something, we're here for them. It's not about, hey, I'm American and you're Haitian and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and that's not my country. That's not how we think.
That's not how we think.
I think we're all human, right?
Yeah, we're brothers and sisters.
So if you feel led to go to their website, we'll leave some information down below how you can be a part of community to community and become a neighbor.
Consider becoming a neighbor. How thoughtful is that?
Yeah.
Be a neighbor to your neighbor.
Yes.
Right?
And your neighbor is not necessarily the person next door. They could be someone else in another country.
Across the ocean.
Yes. So start partnerships, start friends, expand your community, and become multi-ethnic, diversify your group.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what C2C is about. So we hope you guys check it out.
So in terms of 8 days, a story of Haiti, we have decided to ace this book.
Yes.
Hope you guys check it out and have more conversations around this topic. Until next time, bye.